Emotional eating is not about what you eat, but about what's eating you. Welcome to another episode of the Mental Health Break. Cathy Cuddy, a registered dietitian, joins me to discuss some tips for tackling emotional eating. Hi, I'm Dr. Nafisa Sikandri, a licensed clinical psychologist specializing in anxiety-based disorders. I created the Mental Health Break podcast to give you simple, actionable, step-by-step strategies to help you prioritize your mental health. Mental illness can cost you time and money. Ignoring your symptoms will only make the problems worse. Taking time out of your busy day to dedicate to improving your mental health can lead to long-term health and wellness. In this podcast, each week you'll learn tips, tricks, and proven strategies to help you regain control of your life, all while prioritizing your mental health. If you want to improve your life, regain control of your mental health, and feel empowered, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Today's episode is brought to you by the Transforming Anxiety course, an online, self-paced anxiety course to help you manage and control your anxiety from the comfort, privacy, and convenience of your own home. Learn how to transform your anxiety in just 6 short weeks. Course registration is now open. To learn more, visit transforminganxiety.com/course. I'm so excited to talk about emotional eating today and the triggers that are associated with it. Today, I'm joined by Cathy Cuddy. Let me introduce her before I bring her on. Cathy Cuddy is a registered dietitian, nutritionist, and certified holistic health coach with a passion for health, wellness, great food, and good living. Cathy works closely with clients to develop personal nutrition plans that work specifically to meet their needs. Cathy's interest in food and nutrition came in an early age as she watched her mom prepare meals with vegetables grown in the family garden. When her dad was diagnosed with high cholesterol and heart disease, she took a keen interest in nutrition and the difference that healthy eating makes to manage chronic disease. It was then that she decided to pursue her degree in nutrition and become a dietitian. Cathy developed her company, CC Nutrition and Wellness, LLC, to help clients navigate their way to better health through personalized nutrition and wellness programs. Today, she works with busy women who struggle with midlife health changes and weight management so that they can reclaim their bodies and their lives. So, hi, Cathy. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us for this podcast interview. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Thank you, Dr. Nafisa. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
I shared a little bit about your background and your impressive expertise, but I wanted to ask you to say a little bit more about your interests, especially in the area of mindful eating, but also how your dad's diagnosis encouraged you to become a nutritionist. Can you say a little bit about that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So everybody has a story, and people always ask me, Cathy, how did you decide to be a dietitian, and what are you doing now? And it sounds kind of corny, but it really goes back to my childhood and my family upbringing. You see, my parents were immigrants from Italy, and we always had a garden. They grew up on a farm in Italy, both of them. And when they came here to the States, we always had a garden in our backyard. So I would always spend time with my mom in the kitchen, watching her cook with the vegetables from our family garden. I mean, long before the term farm to table came to be in trend and organic. I mean, I didn't really even know what that was. We were just living it. So, fast forward to, I was a teenager. I was 17. I remember I was a senior in high school. And my dad was diagnosed with cardiovascular disease, and it was pretty severe. He needed a quadruple bypass surgery. He had 4 major blockages in his arteries. And this was well before the time of stents and other therapies that we have now. So he needed to go for open heart surgery, which was pretty serious. And he also needed to make changes to his diet because he had high cholesterol. So I started to dive into that to say, what is this all about? And realize that there's a connection between food and our health. And it really made me keenly aware and interested in the role that nutrition plays in our health and chronic disease. So that's what led me to pursue my bachelor's degree in nutrition sciences. I grew up in New York, and I went to college in New York City at Hunter College. And then after that, I went on to receive my master's degree from New York University. And my first job was in hospital, nursing home. I always loved cooking, so the culinary part to me was something that I thoroughly enjoyed. I think that came again from my background of spending all those hours in the kitchen cooking with mom and enjoying the great food that we made, and food is part of life. And I wanted to make healthy food delicious food. There's no reason that healthy food can't be great for you and great tasting as well. So as a young person starting out my career, I loved, working in the kitchen, finding out how all the recipes were made, and working with the cooks and the chefs to make them more and more delicious. So I also went on to the Culinary Institute of America, where I worked with the chefs there to develop a healthy cooking program. At the time, I was working in corporate dining company, and we were working to teach all our chefs how to cook healthy, delicious meals. So I had such a great opportunity to go to the Culinary Institute of America and to partner with those chefs to bring back that knowledge and expertise to our chefs in our corporate dining rooms. So I felt very, very fortunate. So where it takes me to today is that, no matter what I do with health and wellness, that's so ingrained in me. I think it's so important that we start early and we maintain a good lifestyle, but we enjoy life at the same time, because let's face it, food is life. What do we all look forward to every day? What do we wake up in the morning thinking about? Gee, what am I going to make today? Or I'm going to the grocery store. What am I going to buy to make? Or what am I going to enjoy when we go out to the restaurant? Food is part of life. I'm not the dietitian that's about deprivation at all. I'm about the dietitian that says, you're going to a birthday party. I want you to eat the cake and I want you to enjoy it, because there's ways to find balance. So in my career now, I've developed my own company. It's called CC Nutrition and Wellness, where I work with clients to help them navigate their way to better health through better nutrition. I like to work one-on-one with clients, but I also develop small group programs as well. And now in the world of virtual and online, work to develop those kinds of resources and programs as well. I like to work with women primarily. Usually it's with weight management. Everybody is interested in managing their weight. But my approach is to optimize your health, and the side effect, if needed, is weight loss. But you're living your best self, you're living your healthy life.
Yeah, wonderful. Because it's interesting how our stories lead us to the kind of job we end up ultimately doing. And so as a nutritionist, you've also dealt a lot with emotional eating. And that's the topic of today's podcast, as far as just how people get triggered with food. And although you said food is life and food is nutrition, and it should be something that should be enjoyable, but for a lot of people, it can also be very triggering. So can you talk a little bit about what emotional eating is? And then also, what's the difference between emotional eating and then mindless eating and snacking? So if you can talk about that.
Sure. Well, the topic of emotional eating really came to the forefront for me as a nutritionist when COVID hit. When people were in lockdown, and it became more apparent that people were really struggling with this. And we heard about things like the COVID-15, which is the 15-pound weight gain that many people suffered from. We heard about people being bored in lockdown and being stressed and having anxiety. And I was approached by a colleague to do a video series on emotional eating. So started diving into the research and really found that this is not just an issue that people struggle with in times of crisis like COVID, but can struggle with at any time in their life and at any stage. And so what I learned and what I have developed into my program and done many talks like this one, and so happy to share the information because it's so helpful and people really, really need it. Emotional eating is eating out of emotions, right? I like to use the term, it's not what you eat, but what's eating you. And I didn't coin that term. I worked with a physician once who said that, and that always stuck with me because it speaks so much to the problem. It's really what is at the root, what is eating you, what is triggering you, as you just said, doctor. What the triggers are can be different for everyone. Just like we have bio-individuality with how we respond to medicines and therapies, we're all individuals and we all have our individual emotions and how we react to things. The important thing is to learn what your triggers are. And they, like I said, they're different for everyone. It could be you're stressed about your job. You're stressed about homeschooling. The kids stress you out. Your finances could stress you out. Your spouse could say something that's a trigger. The important thing is to recognize what your triggers are and to learn behaviors to deal with your triggers that are not related to food. Okay, it's not to address your triggers by running to the bag of Oreo cookies and finishing it all off in one sitting, or the pint of Haagen-Dazs ice cream. It's learning what the triggers are and learning what you can do to manage your behavior when you experience those triggers. And it's also learning how to manage your stress so that you don't experience the triggers in the same way.
And then also, my other question is, intuitive eating is gaining a lot of popularity because a lot of people are realizing that the diets that they're trying aren't necessarily helping them lose weight or feel better. And a lot of the diets that are popular now are actually making people feel worse. So can you speak a little bit to how this approach of intuitive eating could help people with emotional eating issues? And are they connected in any way?
I haven't looked at the research in terms of any connection, but intuitive eating is an approach that is gaining a lot of popularity now, and for good reasons. Have you ever felt that you just kind of know what you need? But I think with emotional eating, to get to that place takes some time, because initially with emotional eating, we tend to crave sweets. We tend to crave foods that aren't always good for us. Whereas with intuitive eating, it may be like, when you wake up and you've had a bad night's sleep and you just feel like, I really need some good fruits, vegetable. I have a little bit of a headache. I need to drink water. Times like that, when you just know that you need good nutrition, or maybe you need more rest and things like that. I haven't seen any studies linking intuitive eating to emotional eating, but it's certainly an area that bears looking into for sure. I could see that there would be a connection, because where you want to get to in your journey with managing emotional eating is to be more intuitive about what your body really is needing. And that would lead me to the point of when I counsel patients around emotional eating, and especially cravings, right? I like to say, crush your cravings, right? So when we're craving something, especially a food, it may simply be due to the lack of something our body needs, like protein or hydration. A very effective way to manage cravings for food and sweets and so on is to satisfy our body by having protein at every meal, because protein satisfies us. It keeps us from being hungry. It helps us to manage our hunger. And also, if we add fruit and vegetable into our meals, and we have enough, we're full, we have enough from the fiber, we have the natural sweetness from fresh fruit, those cravings can diminish. So in terms of intuitive eating, linking those good foods to help us avoid the cravings, and also getting adequate hydration, which is another area I speak to my clients about, which is making sure they drink enough water, which most people don't, can also help in a great way.
Hydration is definitely important, because a lot of times it sends a signal, right? We think we're actually hungry, but we're really thirsty. And so adding that water or getting the hydration from either fruits and vegetables or actually drinking water can make a big difference.
I've often said that sometimes hunger is masked as thirst. We think we're hungry. And something you can do, a behavior you can incorporate, is when you think you're hungry, just get a tall glass of water, drink it, maybe go for a little walk, even around your house, and then come back and sit down and ask yourself again, am I really hungry? Now you feel more full. So it's a great tip to use. And as far as hydration, in terms of how much water we actually need, a good rule of thumb, a simple formula, is half your body weight in pounds divided by 2 will give you the number of ounces that you need in a day. So for example, if you're a 140-pound woman, you would need 70 ounces of water a day. And that sounds like a lot, but you can do it. And you should start there. That's where I often start with my clients, even if it's weight management or just feeling a little groggy or foggy. make sure you drink enough water, and you will see the difference that that makes. And you'll tune into that. That will be part of your intuitive eating journey.
Well, it's not just water, right? Like they can actually have herbal tea, or they can have just warm water with lemon. They can have add essential oils to their water. It's not just the water. I mean, just
Yeah.
they need the hydration, because some people are very bored with water and they're like, well, I can't drink that much. But it doesn't have to be just cold water.
That is true. Absolutely. Thanks for bringing that up, doctor. Yeah, absolutely. You can drink flavored waters. Just try not to have ones that have sugar in them, because sugar is not your friend. You can have seltzers. You can have teas. Tea is very hydrating, and it's a natural diuretic, like green tea, decaf green tea. I actually have my tea right here. I have to keep sipping on that. So it's great. Keep you going. And you also get a degree of hydration from fresh fruit and vegetable. But when you're just starting out, if you make water kind of your primary go-to, fill in with those other beverages we just spoke about, you'll be well on your way to good hydration. It's a good place to start.
Now, as far as emotional eating goes, there are some triggers associated with emotional eating. So, can you help the listeners identify what some of those triggers could look like, and then how they can not only recognize it, but what can they do when they actually do recognize the emotional triggers?
Right. Well, like I said earlier, triggers can be anything. It depends on the individual, what's going on in your house. It can be the stress that you face, or the conflict you face in your family, or the worries that you have, what, wakes you up at night, things like that. It can also be urges, like if you have your trigger foods. I say there's portion control, and then there's portion out of control. Now, what I mean by that is there's certain foods, and we all have them, that when they're around, we cannot control how much we eat. Like maybe it's that pint of ice cream. I know when I used to eat that when I was younger, I would eat the whole pint, and that's too much. Or pizza. For me, pizza, I can't have 2 slices. That's a 3 slice or 4 slice meal. So I limit that. I do not have that often. For some people, it might be snacks or chips. So my first piece of advice would be to remove those trigger foods from your home. Now, if you live in a family environment where you have family members that, want these foods around, well, ask them to help you by not having them in sight, right? Put them in a cupboard. Don't have them on the counters. I like to have my good foods on my kitchen counters, like my fresh fruit. I'll wash my fruit when I bring it home from the market, and I arrange it in beautiful bowls on my counter. So I'm drawn to that. So those are some kinds of triggers that you can have. I think the important thing is to be mindful and practice mindfulness around your eating. Now, I know, Dr. Nafisa, you mentioned mindless eating or mindful eating earlier when we spoke. This is so important. So I like to distinguish between what's mindful eating versus mindless eating. This is important to note, and ask yourself these questions when you're feeling like you're being triggered. First of all, ask yourself, am I really hungry? And that's a hard question to answer, because sometimes people eat out of habit. They eat out of boredom. They're just grazing. So they graze all day. So they don't really know what it's like to feel physical hunger. Hunger is a physical symptom. Your stomach will growl. You'll actually feel really hungry in your stomach. You may feel lightheaded. You can feel fatigued, no energy. You can have a headache. You can feel hangry. You're angry. You're short-tempered. But try to see hunger and feel hunger as a physical symptom. And ask yourself, am I eating because I'm hungry, or is it for another reason? Is it because I am anxious? Other reasons, like being anxious, being bored, being sad, being tired. So it's a conscious effort to not only recognize your triggers, but recognize if you're eating mindfully. So eating mindfully is eating when you're hungry, not eating for those other reasons, and eating at certain times, staying on a schedule, not eating for reasons like to reward yourself, or you've had a hard day at work, so you come home and you feel like you need a treat. That's more of the mindless eating versus the mindful eating. So those are important things to consider as well. And being on a schedule, is very good. Having a routine, sometimes a lack of a routine can lead to triggers because we just feel lost. So we go to where we're comfortable, and that might be the comfort foods that we're craving. And as I said earlier, if I could talk about nutrition a little bit and the foods and the balance, this is also so important because when we balance our meals and we include protein at every meal, we're not going to be as hungry. We're not going to be feeling that we need something. If we balance our meals with good nutrition and then we also have good hydration, well, our body's in good shape. So we're feeling pretty good physically, and that helps us to feel better emotionally.
As far as the whole mindfulness, the other component is having a good mindset, right? Is there some learned behavior, like when they were maybe a child and whenever they were upset, their family gave them food to comfort them? And so a lot of us associate food with comfort, and then that also affects our mindset. So can you speak a little bit about the patterns that we've developed and then how we can work on our mindset to control the emotional eating?
Oh, that's a great question, doctor. And, of course, with your background, you would know more about, the habits and the history of a patient that, led to them being dependent on food and behaviors. But that's an excellent point. I would say to that, we all have things that happen in our childhood, and some of us are affected by them in a positive way and some maybe not so positive. I would say try to sort through that and see what serves you well. And when you learn about nutrition and good balance and the foods that will help you, they serve you well, right? Then you know that maybe some of the foods that are based in your childhood, that were your go-to foods that made you feel good. Well, maybe they made you feel good on an emotional level. Maybe it was like candy or cake or something special dessert. And that's okay for a little bit. You could have it as a little bit as a treat, but realize that in the long run, this food doesn't serve you well for where you are now. So employing some behaviors like good stress management techniques may help you to not only be more aware of those items and how they can trigger you again, and try to put things in perspective so that you can manage that better. So part of the program as well, it really actually starts with mindset. And I like to say, master your mindset. So much of emotional eating is tied back to your mindset, how you're thinking about things, how you're feeling about things. And I like to start by telling my clients to just accept your emotions, right? Don't put a label on it. Try to watch your negative self-talk. Accept your emotions because they're yours and they're who you are. And you have a right to feel upset or angry or whatever it is. But accept that they're there and that you want to make change. Also, try to be positive and trust yourself that you'll be okay. Because the first step is recognizing that you're having trouble or struggles with this. That's the first part. So start by accepting your emotions, be positive, trust in yourself, try to work with professionals who can help you. That's step number one. Then you want to look at your stress and stress management techniques. This is so important for everything that we do. There are so many ways we can reduce stress. We can meditate. We can develop a morning routine. We can have a cup of tea in the afternoon. We can incorporate walks or going for exercise and so on. So find what works for you and add that into your day. I really love a morning routine. If you get up a little bit earlier, if you can, and you spend 15 minutes or 30 minutes, you could meditate, you could pray, you could stretch, you could find a special place in your house to enjoy your favorite tea or lemon water. It's your time. You can journal. All these things are so effective. And also, if you can't do it in the morning, maybe you do that special time at the end of the day as you're getting ready to turn down for bed to have a good night's sleep. So I hope those tips help you.
Those are all really good tips. But one thing you said was to be positive. But for when it comes to anxiety or depression or any mental illness, I guess, our negative mindset or our negative chatter can really make the symptoms worse. When it comes to anxiety, the negative self-talk definitely can make our anxiety worse. So, what role do you think that automatic negative script plays in emotional eating?
I think it plays a detrimental role. And that's why I know it's hard to be positive, but try to maybe pick one thing. I know with a lot of journaling now, there's talk about, gratitude journaling, even if it's one or two things, and you start your day by the things that are good about you. Try to love yourself. You have to start with your self-care and trying to love yourself more. You deserve this. You deserve to feel good, and just take it one step at a time. Sometimes it's hard to get through a day, but take it, an hour by hour, a minute by minute, and just try to build on it. Not every day is going to be a win. Know that you'll slip and fall, but the important thing is that you get back up and you have the capability to do that. And I realize that some days are harder than others, and it's harder for, some people more than others. But just by trying and recognizing and being good to yourself, I say self-care is not selfish. It's so important. I think people really struggle with guilt around self-care. I know especially a lot of busy moms, we tend to put everybody else first, and what happens? We put ourselves last all the time. Well, that's a behavior that we need to change over time, because we need to realize that by being good to ourselves, we're in a better position to be good to those in our life, those people that we love and care about. So even though it's difficult to do these things, just know little by little and building on the day before, you will get there. That's what I mean about being positive and trusting in yourself. And, just try to write it down, whatever works for you. Do you talk to your patients about journaling or any of these practices, doctor?
It's such a cliche, but yes, as a mental health professional, I'm a huge fan of journaling. And yeah, and even keeping a food journal can really give us insight into what we're eating and associating how you were feeling when you decided to eat that. But one thing that concerns me is when people, and I've been there, it's like, well, I had a slice of cheesecake, I might as well have another, or I might as well finish the whole pint of ice cream, right? I've already dug deep into it.
Yeah.
And then feeling bad about it and then sabotaging yourself afterwards and not self-correcting and saying, oh, it was a mistake. It's that negative self-talk. Well, you're never going to be able to control this, so might as well go ahead and do it, right? Instead, just, okay, I made a mistake or I ate all that. I enjoyed it. I'll do better the next time, or I'll self-correct moving forward.
Yeah.
So that's a big important
That's an
point.
excellent point, and I totally agree. And I think the important thing for the folks, the listeners, to recognize is that, yes, you may have those times where, as you described, one piece of cheesecake will lead to the whole cheesecake. But what are you going to do? Are you going to just put yourself into like the ground and forget about it? You can't. So you have to live the next day. And you know what? Ease up on yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. It's okay. We're all human. And guess what? If you're feeling this way, there are a lot of other people out there feeling this. You're not alone in this at all. So don't feel that way, and just don't be so hard on yourself. Say, hey, I did it. I don't feel really good right now. My stomach hurts. My head hurts. I feel guilty about it. But you know what? I don't want to feel like this again tomorrow or the next day. And you have the power. You can choose. You can make your choices, and you can say, I am choosing not to, or I am choosing to. It's up to you.
Right, right. And the whole guilt about food, I feel like it's kind of a useless emotion. It's not going to really do anything. Okay, so you ate it, enjoy the food, be mindful, really taste it.
Taste
And
it.
then a lot of times we might taste it and like, I've given up a lot of sugar. So now if I have something sweet that I'm craving and I eat it, it's like, if I'm really being mindful, it's too much sugar. And that sends a signal to my brain that maybe not have that the next time. So it's important to pay attention and not beat yourself up. That's not going to do you any good. Just go ahead and eat it, enjoy it, and then make better choices slowly. You'll build momentum, and it'll end up changing the way you eat altogether, right?
Yeah, it certainly will. And to your point about the sugar, right? Once you kind of give something up, your taste buds get used to it, your body gets used to it. And then you go to eat the food and maybe you enjoy it a little bit, but maybe not as much as you thought. And you'll see, it'll change over time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, you did mention a little bit about eating protein and maybe fat to make you feel more full and satisfied. Can you teach us about how, as a nutritionist, how we can optimize our food and the foods that we are eating and get the most out of what we're eating nutritionally?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. Great question. So what we want to start with, I'm sure the listeners have heard the term macros or macronutrients, and that's protein, carbohydrates, and fat, right? So as I said, you should try to include protein with every meal. Now, sources of protein for people who are not vegan or vegetarian would be animal sources like lean fish, lean chicken, lean beef, things like that. If you're a vegetarian or vegan, you can get your protein from lots of sources as well, like beans and lentils, nuts and seeds. Grains like quinoa are loaded with protein. And actually, even if you are a meat eater, you should try to incorporate many plant and vegetable sources of protein as well in your meals. Now, a good rule of thumb, I like to use the plate. Okay, and you can go to, there's a great resource called myplate.org, and it's affiliated with the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. So my plate uses the plate, right? A round plate. So visualize this. On your plate, you want half your plate to be fruits and vegetables, just as a visual, right? And then a quarter of your plate to be protein, and the other quarter of your plate to be grains. Right, grains or starch, complex carbohydrate. So your fruits and vegetables, they comprise carbohydrates, right? Because I said protein. Other sources of protein before I leave, you can get protein from eggs. You can get protein in milk and dairy products. If you don't eat milk, dairy, you can get it from nut milks like almond milk, etc. So, try, like I said, every meal. So say, for example, breakfast, your protein sources would be eggs. You could have Greek yogurt, it's loaded with protein. Cottage cheese is loaded with protein. As I said, dairy, and those are just some examples. Some snacks, you could have peanut butter. Peanut butter you could also have at breakfast. You could have, say, a sliced apple with a tablespoon of peanut butter. You could have some nuts. Just watch with nuts. They're really nutritious, but they're calorie dense. So you just want to make sure you eat the right portion size. Then at lunch and at dinner, you can incorporate, as I said, fish, chicken, meat, the grains that are high in protein. So now the other macro is carbohydrates. Now, a lot of people think that carbohydrates are not their friends, but they are, because we get carbohydrates from fruits and vegetables. And fruits and vegetables are so loaded with nutrition, all your vitamins, all your minerals, phytonutrients, fiber, which we need to have a healthy gut and healthy immune system. So very, very important. Where carbohydrates, have a little more, challenge is when we eat the complex carbohydrates, because they're higher in calories, but they're also very high in nutrients as well, like your breads and your pastas and your grains. Yes, they're more dense, right? So they're higher in calories, but they also have nutrition that is important for us. So you just have to limit, the number and the amount that you have. And then when it comes to, but before I leave carbohydrates, the carbohydrates that are not good for us are simple carbohydrates. And those would be your sugars, your sweets, your candies. Think of it this way, you're getting calories without nutrition. So empty calories, you don't want that. They don't serve a purpose. I mean, you can have them as a treat once in a while. And the USDA guideline was just revised, and you are, is recommended 10% of your total caloric intake can be had from sugar. So sweets, added sugars. But less is best. And it's just good to know that. Now, when it comes to fats, we also need fat. Our body needs fat. And we should aim to eat fat, good healthy fat. What is that? Olive oil, avocado oil. Those are healthy fats. And our body needs that for our skin, for our digestion. Fat around our organs, not too much, protects us. So we do need fat in our diet, and also it satisfies us. So we want a healthy combination of protein, carbohydrate, and fat at every meal. And so if you use that My Plate visual, go to myplate.org. There's many, many more resources there as well. But in your head, you can just have this idea of half your fruits and vegetables, quarter of your plate protein, quarter of your plate a starch. Then you want to supplement that, of course, with a good amount of water or water-like beverages during the day. And add to that some good physical exercise and good sleep, and you're well on your way to great self-care.
One thing for people that might be confused is you can add olive oil and avocado to your salad if that's half your plate of vegetables. So it's not that you're missing your fat. There are different ways of adding the fat, right?
Definitely.
And I'm also
Definitely.
a big believer of even your snacks should be a good protein, a good carb, and a good fat. So like you said, apples with almond butter, vegetables with hummus, that has the carbs, it has the fat, and has the protein. So you can get, my favorite breakfast is having 2 boiled eggs, half an avocado mashed up and put it on whole grain bread,
Delicious.
um, adding it to your smoothie.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great one. I love putting avocado even on sandwiches at lunch. I'll use like one slice of a really good whole grain bread, like a whole grain rye or even a sourdough, and I'll put a little bit of mayo, but then I'll put my avocado and smash that right in, slice a tomato, and then some lean turkey. It's a delicious sandwich. It's really, really satisfying. And I'll make a side salad with that. So, and that satisfies me. I'm not a snacker. I'll eat more of a substantial at every meal. I know some people do like to snack, but another way is if you get enough calories to sustain you, you don't need those snacks. But I do try to get a piece of fruit in the afternoon and maybe in the evenings, because I want to be conscious of getting enough fiber. Women, we need fiber. We need 25 to 30 grams of fiber per day. And if you stop and calculate and see what you're doing, along with that, with your water, because you want to keep good digestive health. This is so important for us on so many levels.
Right. I mean, you've shared a lot of really good tips, but can you summarize like a few really good ones that we can incorporate to overcome or take back control of our emotional eating?
Mm-hmm. Well, what I would say is up your game with your self-care. You are number one. Make yourself number one and don't feel guilty about it. This is your time. You deserve it. You've been through a lot and you're struggling. So you need to take extra care of you. So I would start with your mindset, having gratitude, employing some stress management techniques to help you, and do that on a routine basis every day if possible. And again, as doctor said, and I said, don't beat yourself up. It's okay. Start there because it's what's eating at you. We want it to stop eating at you. We want you to be in better control. We want you to feel like you have the power. That's what's so important. I always start with the mindset. Next, I would say, focus on what you're eating, right? You are what you eat. You deserve good food. When you're choosing a food, say to yourself in your mind, stop and ask yourself, is this food helping me or is it hurting me? Is it nutritious? Is it going to feed my body in a way that serves me or not? And from that point, you should be able to make the choice that's best for you, right? So get your good nutrition, your good nutrients, and get some good hydration. Wherever you are, I challenge you to stop and evaluate. First, do the simple formula. How much water do you need in a day? Your weight in pounds divided by 2 to get the number of ounces that you need in your day. And then track where you're at. Start keeping track of how much you're drinking now. And if you have a deficit, try to do better, just a little bit better every day. And like we said, it doesn't have to be only water. It can be tea. It can be flavored seltzers. It can be water with lemon. Okay, so that's the second and third. Next, I would say physical exercise. We really didn't dive into this, but your body is meant to move, and movement is critical and it's important for us. As we get older, women, we lose lean muscle mass and we lose bone. And exercise has been shown to help us restore that. And even at any age, if you start doing just a little bit of weight training, a little bit of weight resistant exercise, you can start to build lean muscle and stop the loss of bone. So that is so important, if for not anything else, not even for vanity reason. Think about exercise or physical activity in a way that's going to help you, not that something like, oh, I have to do this. And I don't mean hours at the gym. You don't need hours at the gym. You just need to be more active. Get out for a walk, schedule some time. We're all working at home. We're working at our desk. I heard an expression saying sitting is the new smoking. Have you heard that, Dr. Nafisa?
I have, and it's crazy. Yeah.
You have heard that, right? Sitting
Mhm.
is the new smoking. That is very telling,
Mhm.
because as we're working remotely, we tend to sit more and more and more. We sit at our desks and the time goes by. So what you can do is schedule an appointment with yourself, block out times, take a break, even if it's for 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be 30 minutes or an hour. There's another expression I like to use. I heard it on the news. It's called exercise snacks. Have you heard that one?
No, what is
Yeah,
that?
this is great. At first I said, exercise snacks. What kind of food is that? It's not food. It's taking a 5 or 10-minute exercise break. So think of your exercise in these small snacks that are really manageable, and you can put them into your day. So you take a break. Maybe you start your day at 8 o'clock on the computer, say, for example. Make sure you write down in your planner, whether it's on your computer or your paper planner, 10 a.m., I'm taking a break. I'm taking my exercise snack break. Guess what? You'll do 10 minutes of moving around. You might want to do 10 minutes more. There are so many ways we can do this, even at home. You can go online. YouTube has tons of free videos, right? Or just look up online. If you like yoga, you can do stretching. Just move and change it up. I like to get out and walk every day. It clears my head. I need air. I think air is a nutrient. We all need it, and the nature. And just it helps our stress level. So try whatever you can do to get more active in your day.
I would
And
even recommend taking a 5-minute guided meditation. On YouTube has a lot of free videos, just closing your eyes and, like you said, taking a deep breath and just calming yourself. That could be a really good snack as well.
absolutely, absolutely, you should do that as well. And the last point I'd like to make about how to handle emotional eating and your self-care is your sleep. We could do a whole nother podcast just on sleep, doctor, I'm sure. And all I'm saying is that sleep is so important. It is not a badge of honor to say, oh, I only need 4 or 5 hours. You need 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. It's been proven to help us in so many ways. People who don't get enough sleep on average overeat by 500 calories per day.
Don't they say that it disrupts your satiety signal when you're not getting enough sleep?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, in so many ways, lack of sleep leads to lack of control, and it leads to making poor choices.
Mm-hmm.
Think about a night or the day after you've had a terrible night's sleep and how you felt. I don't know about you, but I've had days like that, thank God, not too many, where I just feel like I have to eat myself through the day because it's going to give me energy, right? And it's going to help my headache. And it never does. And also the things I'm craving are all the bad things, like the sweets. I feel like the sweets are going to help me. They're going to give me more energy, and it never works. So the key is to get a good night's sleep. And the way to do that is to set a routine. There are lots of tips and tricks around that too. If any of your listeners are interested in reaching out to me, I can send them out a tip sheet. If anything on this podcast, you're interested in more information, I'd be happy to email that out to you, if that's okay with Dr.
Definitely. Well,
Yes.
before we get into your contact information, I just want to say, especially with emotional eating, a lot of us are having trouble sleeping because we're eating late at night, and that's disrupting our sleep, because if we're eating too close to bedtime, our body's so busy digesting, it's not going to allow us to go into that deep state of sleep. So just pay attention and not eat too late, and watch what you're eating before bed, because that can disrupt your sleep and
Yeah,
lead to a terrible cycle.
definitely. Absolutely. And also try to limit alcohol and caffeine, that will help. And limit your blue light. The
Oh,
blue light
definitely.
the blue light is really very stimulating, and we're on our tablets, our laptops, our phones, even TV emits some blue light. So try to just turn off, take 30 minutes, have a bedtime routine, do some nice restful, relaxing reading, meditation, and so on. And, give yourself that treat. You deserve it. Good sleep has even been linked to increased immunity, and that is so important these days.
And
So,
we will definitely be, I have several episodes scheduled about sleep because I am such a believer in it and I'm so religious about my bedtime. And it's not just about getting 8 hours, it's when you're sleeping, making sure you're sleeping between 10 and 2, 10 at night and 2 in the morning, because that is when your body goes into that deep state of sleep. So those episodes will definitely be coming up. And it's definitely a huge part of our rest and digest and how we're processing our foods. So thank you for bringing that up. In the meantime, how can people find you? Are you on social media, or how can people contact you and learn more about you?
yeah, thank you. So the best way to contact me is with my email, and it's a really simple email. It's Cathy Cuddy, CathyCuddy, nutrition at gmail.com. So I always check my email, but I also have a website. It's ccnutritionandwellness.com. And I am on social media. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, so you can easily message me on any of those platforms. And I would love to hear your comments, your thoughts, your questions, and I'd love to be of service to you. So please reach out. Anything on the podcast got your interest, you'd like more information, or you'd like to even know how you can work with me, I work with clients one-on-one coaching programs and small group programs, and I'd be happy to share that information with you. So please reach out.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time and being here and sharing this information. I think we all could benefit from being more mindful in our eating, and having a registered dietitian here to share that wisdom with us was very important. So thank you. Thank you for taking the time and being here.
My pleasure, Dr. Nafisa. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too. That was a great discussion about mindful eating. To learn more about Cathy Cuddy, visit transforminganxiety.com/33. When you're there, go ahead and leave me a comment and let me know your thoughts about this episode. If you haven't already, you can show support for the Mental Health Break podcast by subscribing wherever you're tuning in from today. We have some great interviews lined up and you don't want to miss a single episode. Subscribe today to get notified when new episodes drop. I can't wait to see you here next week. Same time, same place. Bye for now.